Formula One racers, cinching up to 700 horsepower, a life of action and danger, a life of glamour. All part of the quest for the World Driving Championship. Race number 9 for the World Championship from Dallas, Texas on CBS.
Today we're going to talk about a Formula One Grand Prix that not only pushed the limits of drivers and equipment, but even the track itself. I'm talking about the 1984 Dallas Grand Prix. The 1980s were an interesting time for Formula One as they tried everything they could to break into the US market, hosting races in major cities such as Las Vegas and Detroit, for example. But in 1984, they decided to go another route: Dallas, Texas. In 1983, a group of investors, including race car driver and car designer Carroll Shelby, did everything they could to lure Formula One into hosting a World Championship Grand Prix in the great state of Texas. Now, because of the Dallas Cowboys and the popular TV show at the time named Dallas, it really became a world-class city by this point. With Dallas being selected, where exactly do you host it? At good old Fair Park. This is one of Dallas's historic complexes located east of downtown. The most famous landmark you'll find on this complex is without question the Cotton Bowl. And with the entire area being listed as not only a Dallas landmark but also a National Historic Landmark, it seemed like a no-brainer to host the race here. Formula One agreed and put the race on the schedule for the 1984 World Drivers' Championship. Now here's where the first problem came up. The Texas State Fair was held at Fair Park during the fall, so because of that, everyone decided it would be best to host the race in early July. Texas summers are brutal, but they had no other choice, and also they didn't want to risk the race getting rained out. Now the course layout was interesting to say the least. Now this article I found from back in the day described the track like this: it is a very tortuous, narrow, uninteresting, and above all dangerous route. Most of the turns are blind and the track is surrounded by walls and old tires. If the chicanes are fairly well designed, some braking results directly on the concrete. The temporary covering is defective and dented as hell. This track looks more like a rally special than a Formula One circuit. A test session was held before the Grand Prix took place, and Rene Arnoux spoke out. For us, this urban route is not at all suitable for a Grand Prix. It's not because we do a dangerous job that we don't have the right to complain. Meanwhile, one of the Dallas Grand Prix promoters said this: Formula One drivers are the biggest prima donnas in sport. They bitch about everything. So with all of that taking place, in July of 1984, the Dallas Grand Prix weekend was set to take place. Practice and qualifying took place in the sweltering afternoon heat. Teams are doing everything they can to not only keep the drivers cool, but their machines as well. During the first sessions on Friday, the asphalt began to crumble, and on Saturday, it got even hotter. Track temps were listed at 150 degrees, and it was already a little over 100 degrees outside. Despite the heat, Lotus were the big winners in qualifying, as Nigel Mansell and DeAngelis locked the front row. Unfortunately for one driver, he wouldn't even be in the race, as Martin Brundle was in the hospital after crashing during the Friday afternoon session. So you get the picture. The race hasn't even turned a lap yet, and we have all of this drama going on. But come race morning, and it would only get worse.
Yesterday, a Can-Am event, and in it, 6 turns were torn up around the course. They started work at 3 this morning. Some of the asphalt didn't work, and this is what we saw this morning when we arrived at the track: holes in the track and this kind of construction going on. These pictures were taken at 9:30 as they were taking out some patch asphalt, what they call set 45, and putting it in again. And you can see concerned drivers going around the course, and they have not been happy with what they have seen. They've torn out some of the corners. It takes 45 minutes for this concrete to set. It may set, but the edges around it may tear up again. And naturally, there's a lot of nervous people, 25 of them, sitting in the cars now on pit road, and the issue is, will they go?
But the feeling is that this race should really have been delayed for at least another 5 hours. One driver's predicted there'll be broken bones. There was, of course, talk of a strike. Would all the drivers stop after a few laps? The team managers have told me they are placing the onus on the drivers alone. If they feel it's unsafe, they will stop.
Oh boy, the drivers could potentially pull a 2005 US Grand Prix long before that even happened. But instead, they decided to go on with the race. Now, a couple of side notes before we get started. The race was set to begin at 11 a.m. Why? To avoid the afternoon heat. But the funny thing about that is by the time the race began, it was 104 degrees. And also, for some of you NASCAR fans, nope, your ears aren't deceiving you. That is Ken Squire on the call for a Formula One race. And finally, because of the heat and track surface consistently crumbling, they decided to shorten the race distance from 78 to 68 laps. With over 100,000 spectators, including former United States President Jimmy Carter, it is time for the 1984 Dallas Grand Prix to get underway.
And a good start by Mansell. DeAngelis tucks in. Warwick is in third position as they stream away. So it's the two British drivers in first and third positions, with Senna fourth, Lauda fifth, and Prost in sixth position.
Now they're coming to a place where the track's broken up. There you can see the new concrete surface. Let's just hope it stays looking like that for the rest of the afternoon. Rene Arnoux, in fact, for some reason or other, pulled up, and there's Elio De Angelis having a bit of a moment there as he goes round that hairpin, coming onto the straight up to the fast dogleg now.
18 turns, 7 right, 11 left, 2.42 miles. As the Dallas Grand Prix controversial event is underway.
A lap hadn't even been completed yet, and we have our first DNF. Frenchman Francois Hainaut was already out of the race, but now Senna went around. What? He just made it all the way to fourth. Oh, this race is going to be insane. Early on, Mansell was running away with the lead, with his Lotus teammate DeAngelis holding second. By lap 8, DeAngelis was passed by Warwick and Lauda, and Warwick was beginning to make up some ground on the leader. On the same lap, German Stefan Beloff was out of the race, but the battle for the lead continued, and oh my gosh, Warwick, no you didn't. You did not just mess up the quarter like that.
And that's the problem with getting on the marbles.
So Derek Warwick momentarily in the lead on lap 11, spins off. He led in Brazil only to have his suspension break, and he will be kicking himself and cursing himself forevermore after this. It needn't have happened.
Yep, that's tough indeed, but the Lotuses seem to love it. Mansell and DeAngelis are finally battling for the lead, while points leader Niki Lauda is on their coattails. But don't forget about fourth place driver KK Rosberg. He will play a bigger role as the race goes on, and what is the car still doing there? Get it off the track.
That looks like Hubi Rothengarter, the Dutch driver, driving the Spirit Cosworth. Qualified fairly low down on the field. Obviously something's either gone wrong or he's hit something.
It became apparent early on that this was going to be a race of attrition. Who would survive the longest? And KK Rosberg looked to be one of them. He took second place away by lap 24, with Mansell still in the lead, with his teammate now demoted to third. The two McLarens of Alain Prost and Niki Lauda are fourth and fifth.
Here he comes another time.
Right, they touched wheels, I think, then.
1,200-pound car, you touch wheels, and that may be the end of it.
And there's Tombe touring, seeming with a wheel off. No wonder he's touring.
Good one. But this race is getting crazy, and we still have the insane battle for the lead going on. But now, third and fourth place have closed the distance. Prost eventually takes over second spot with his eyes on the lead, but Mansell is not giving an inch. Eventually, Rosberg is able to get past Prost for second, and soon enough, on lap 36, finally, we have a new leader. But to Mansell's credit, he tried to fit his car in a narrow gap to take the lead back, and oh my gosh, why is that car still on the track? Get it off the track! Now we have a new race. By lap 37, Mansell fell all the way from first to fifth, with KK Rosberg leading, Alain Prost second, DeAngelis third, and Niki Lauda in fourth.
Wonder how many of those other leaders are going to be here very shortly. Well,
It still could be where he just tagged the wall.
And bad news is there for British enthusiasts. Nigel Mansell again in the pits and having a tyre change, obviously. Steve Hallam, his team engineer, watching over the proceedings, as is Peter Waugh, and out goes Mansell, but his chances of victory are totally destroyed now.
Considering he started on pole and led the first 35 laps, that's a real shame for Mansell, but perhaps he could still finish in the points. By lap 43, we have Rosberg, Prost, Lauda, DeAngelis, and Arnoux rounding out the top 5. As the laps keep winding down, the herd is beginning to thin. World champion Nelson Piquet is now out of the race. Because the McLaren was so fast and great pit strategy, Prost was able to eventually take the lead from Rosberg.
There is Alvaretto with his right rear wheel all askew.
And Prost has got a puncture on lap 56. Alain Prost goes out of the race and Keke Rosberg retakes the lead. What an incredible development. Prost's right front. Whether it's tyre wear or he's hit the wall, I don't know, but anyway, he's lost the lead to Rosberg. Now Rosberg leading, and Mark Surer is in trouble. That's another retirement.
Yes, very terminal, that trouble looked, and that also was a damaged car. He looked as if he'd hit the wall, his wheel off, and they're all parked in the sort of car park there.
Okay, sorry for my earlier meltdown. I guess back in the day, they just left the cars on track. I don't know, racing was so weird in the 1980s. Anyways, by lap 58, Rosberg, Arnoux, and Lauda make up the podium slots. Oh, never mind, Lauda has an issue and now has joined the dead car park. With all of the chaos that took place that day, nobody was gonna stop Keke Rosberg as he went on to win the 1984 Dallas Grand Prix, scoring William Honda's first win of the season. Ferrari's Rene Arnoux came in second place. While DeAngelis brought Lotus the final podium slot, it was his teammate Nigel Mansell that would end up stealing the show. With all of his heart and determination, he was destined to finish this race after running out of gas coming out of the final corner. In actuality, he didn't have to do this, as his 6th place point finish was already secure as he was 3 laps ahead of 7th. But unfortunately, he passed out from heat exhaustion. Honestly, it's a fitting end to one of the most bizarre Formula 1 races ever. Even the winner is too exhausted to celebrate, he just wants a drink. In the end, 18 of the 26 drivers wound up retiring, 14 of which hit the wall. To make a long story short, the heat was a major factor in the Dallas Grand Prix only existing for 1 season, and Formula 1 would not return to the state of Texas until 2012 in Austin for the United States Grand Prix at COTA. In conclusion, this is one of, if not the craziest race in Formula 1 history. A race that truly tested the limits of both man and machine. And once again, that'll do it for another video. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Black Flags Matter. Catch you next time.
The 1984 Dallas Grand Prix has been a presentation of CBS Sports.